James Simons. You have heard the name as shorthand for money made with math. He left academia and built a trading firm that changed how markets are understood. After the money came, something unexpected happened. He did not vanish into mansions and yachts. He opened doors. You sit in a lecture hall that his foundation paid for. Inside, a graduate student runs a new idea that no one else could afford to test. That is part of his legacy. The math he did early on mattered. The Chern-Simons form he worked on before wealth kept echoing in physics years later. After wealth, he used his resources to create labs, to hire bright people, and to bankroll long shots. Here is what makes his story interesting. Wealth freed time and gave choices. Instead of needing grants that demand quick results, he could fund patient work. That meant supporting pure math papers that might not pay off for a decade. It also meant seeding projects in biology and computing that turned into real discoveries. Scientists funded by his foundation published papers that pushed fields forward. Some projects tackled autism research. Others pushed the boundaries of geometry and physics. But this is not only philanthropy. He kept a foot in the science world. He read papers. He hosted workshops that created networks. Those meetings turned into collaborations that produced new ideas. So the question is not whether money buys discoveries. The question is how a particular person decides to use it. With patient funding and respect for curiosity, results followed. One example is the Simons Foundation and the Flatiron Institute. He poured money into research centers that could hire teams and buy time. That funding paid for computational tools that individual labs could never afford. Young researchers got to work on problems that needed deep math and raw computing power. That is where some discoveries happened. Think of a slow idea that needs many experiments and many retries. With private money, a team can try the risky thing without promising immediate results. The Flatiron Institute created labs for data science, for biology, and for physics. Those labs gave people space to build new software and test wild hypotheses. Some of those projects produced papers that changed how scientists simulate complex systems. There is a human side to this too. He hosted workshops where mathematicians and physicists, and even biologists, met for a week and argued until dawn. Those conversations led to new directions. Funding made the conversations possible, and it made the follow-up work possible. That combination of curiosity plus money created leverage. Timothy A. Springer. You picture a lab coat and a stack of journal articles. He was already a scientist when he helped start a company in 1993. That company aimed to turn antibody ideas into real medicines. It worked. Patients with stubborn gut diseases got a new option. An antibody called vedolizumab became a treatment for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. The road from lab bench to clinic is long and expensive. Early investors and patient funders make the trials possible. Springer was both a scientist and an investor. When Moderna went public in 2018, his early backing paid off. That money changed what he could do next. Here is the core pattern. With financial freedom, he could pursue work that does not promise a quick return. He kept his lab ties while also advising startups. He supported projects that bridged chemistry and immunology. That meant more than writing checks. It meant choosing which risky ideas to move from concept to test tube. Those choices helped push antibody science forward. There's another layer. When a scientist becomes wealthy and stays active, they can build teams that think differently. They hire people who are willing to try new approaches. They fund the expensive experiments that reveal whether a concept is real or only promising on paper. That hands-off patience turns bright hunches into published papers and sometimes into approved drugs. A patient sits in a clinic chair while a nurse prepares an infusion that could change a life. That infusion was vedolizumab. It began as an idea in a lab and became a treatment for ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Trials are slow and expensive. They need labs, staff, and time. Early backing matters. Springer was a scientist who crossed into the world of startups and investing. He helped start a company that moved antibody ideas into trials. When Moderna went public in 2018, his early bets paid off. That financial cushion let him fund hard experiments and long clinical programs without the pressure of immediate profit. Here is the tighter point. Funding does not write the science for you. It buys the runway. It pays for the costly Phase 3 trials that confirm whether a drug actually helps people. In the case of vedolizumab, patient volunteers showed meaningful improvement. Papers followed. Regulators approved the therapy. Lives changed. James Dyson. You have felt the difference without thinking about who made it. His first big break was a vacuum that did not lose power as it filled. It sounded small. It changed the way machines move air. He built 5,000 prototypes. Each one taught him something new about turbulence and filters. That stubborn trial and error led to cyclonic separation. Instead of a bag that clogged, his machines spun dust out with furious air. The result was a product that cleaned better for longer. People bought it. Money followed. After wealth arrived, he did not stop inventing. He doubled down on engineering. He poured resources into new motors that spin faster and into computer-controlled fans that move air without blades. He set up research centers and hired teams to play with materials and simulation software. Those labs produced quiet hand dryers and hair tools that use engineered airflow and heat control to dry faster while using less energy. There is a pattern worth noting. When an inventor gets money, he can take bigger engineering bets. Dyson funded long-term projects that needed time and dozens of skilled technicians. One high-profile example was an attempt to build an electric car. The project attracted top engineers and produced novel battery ideas and compact drive units. The company spent hundreds of millions and then closed the project. Some of the technology moved into other products. Some of the lessons fed new factories and new patents. He kept the machines coming. Labs in his factories became playgrounds for engineers. They tested motors, filters, and new plastics until small gains added up. He used his wealth to build test rigs that other firms could not afford. That made room for wild ideas. He also poured money into training and education. He opened a school for engineers to learn practical design and manufacturing skills. That created a pipeline of people who think about both form and function. Gordon Earl Moore. The tiny rule he wrote in a short article changed a whole industry. In 1965, he noticed that the number of transistors on a chip kept doubling. That observation became a prediction, and then a guiding challenge. Engineers raced to keep up. Factories grew. New materials and new methods followed. He helped build a company that turned that idea into silicon reality. Chips got denser and cheaper. Computers that once filled rooms shrank into pockets. That wave created entire fields and enormous wealth. When the wealth arrived, he did not step away from science. He used it. His foundation funded imaging centers and cutting-edge labs that needed long-term money. It supported projects that looked risky to traditional grant panels. That meant instruments were bought, teams hired, and experiments launched that might have waited years for public funds. Some of those projects pushed microscopy and telescope design. Others funded conservation science that tracked species and habitats over decades. Here is what money bought in practice. It bought patience. It paid for custom machines that no university could afford on a single grant. It paid for multi-year data collection and for teams to maintain continuity across lab rotations. Those steady investments produced precise instruments and data sets that other scientists still use. In some cases, the Foundation S funding created whole new subfields. A high-end imaging system funded by patient philanthropy changed what scientists could see. The Foundation paid for a shared facility that combined an ultra-high-resolution electron microscope with new detectors and custom software. Building that instrument took years of engineering and iteration. Universities and small labs could not afford the risk or the price tag on their own. Having a central facility mattered in two ways. First, it let teams try ideas that need perfect data. Imaging a fragile molecule or watching a cell respond to a drug in real time requires instruments tuned to a hair's breadth. The facility delivered that precision. Papers followed that mapped structures and dynamics nobody could observe before. Second, it created a community. Researchers from different fields booked time, traded methods, and learned from each other. That cross-fertilization produced methods that spread quickly. Patrick Soon-Shiong, the doctor who never stopped being curious about healing. He was born in South Africa during apartheid, one of only 2 Chinese students admitted to medical school. Instead of leaving early, he stayed to help patients in tuberculosis clinics who had nowhere else to turn. That compassion led him to prison briefly, but it also shaped his lifelong mission. When he moved to America, he became a surgeon and researcher at UCLA. He performed the university's first whole organ pancreas transplant. He pioneered experimental treatments for diabetes, including encapsulated islet cell transplants. But Soon-Shiong saw that academic research moved too slowly. In the early 1990s, he founded biotechnology companies to turn his ideas into real treatments. He invented Abraxane in 1995, a groundbreaking nanoparticle drug that used the tumor's own biology against itself. The drug was designed to transform the tumor microenvironment and activate the immune system. The FDA approved it in 2005 for breast cancer, then lung cancer, then pancreatic cancer. That invention changed how doctors treat these diseases. Soon-Shiong sold 2 pharmaceutical companies. American pharmaceutical partners went to Fresenius for $4.6 billion in 2008. Abraxis Bioscience sold to Celgene for nearly $4 billion in 2010. That wealth gave him freedom to pursue even bolder ideas. After becoming a billionaire, Soon-Shiong did not retire. He doubled down on discovery. He founded NantWorks, a network of companies focused on transforming healthcare through technology and immunotherapy. He championed a new class of cancer treatment that harnesses the body's natural killer cells instead of chemotherapy. In 2024, his drug Anktiva received FDA approval for bladder cancer. The treatment works by activating interleukin-15, which strengthens natural killer cells to multiply and attack tumors. Patients who received it avoided chemotherapy entirely. Some called it miraculous. Soon-Shiong used his wealth to fund research that pharmaceutical companies considered too risky. He built facilities in South Africa to manufacture vaccines at scale. He partnered with government officials and academic institutions worldwide to advance pandemic preparedness. His foundation supports research into genetic medicine and climate solutions. He holds over 850 patents spanning medicine, technology, and artificial intelligence. What makes his story remarkable is persistence. Wealth did not make him comfortable. It made him ambitious. He continues to push boundaries, fund dangerous experiments, and challenge medical dogma. He remains a practicing physician at heart, thinking across scales from the nano to the whole human, refusing to be confined to one path. Ugur Sahin, a German oncologist and immunologist who never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Yet today, he stands as one of the most important medical researchers of the 21st century. His family moved from Turkey to Germany when he was 4. He grew up in Cologne and studied medicine, completing his doctorate in cancer immunotherapy. He spent years as a physician treating leukemia and hematology-oncology patients by day and working in research labs at night. In 2008, Sahin co-founded BioNTech with his wife Özlem Türeci and Christoph Huber. The company focused on using messenger RNA technology to create individualized cancer immunotherapies. At the time, most scientists dismissed mRNA as too unstable and expensive. Sahin believed otherwise. He pioneered fundamental breakthroughs that made mRNA vaccines possible. His team discovered how to optimize the structural elements of mRNA molecules. They learned to use modified nucleosides to prevent immune rejection. They developed lipid nanoparticle delivery systems that protected fragile RNA long enough to reach cells. These technical achievements took years of patient work. By 2019, BioNTech had raised enough capital to conduct serious trials. The company was valued at $9 billion before the pandemic. Then, in January 2020, Sahin read about a new coronavirus spreading in China. Within hours, he launched Project Lightspeed. His team pivoted from cancer research to COVID vaccine development. They had the tools ready. The mRNA platform they built for cancer therapy could be adapted rapidly. Within 11 months, BioNTech and Pfizer produced the first authorized mRNA vaccine for COVID-19. That speed was unprecedented. Traditional vaccine development takes a decade or more. Sahin compressed it by having the foundational science already in place. When BioNTech's COVID vaccine succeeded, Sahin became a billionaire. His net worth reached over $7 billion by early 2022. But wealth did not change his mission. After the financial windfall, Sahin expanded his research in multiple directions. He continues to lead development of personalized cancer vaccines tailored to each patient's tumor mutations. His team uses next-generation sequencing to identify neoantigens unique to individual cancers. He established the Helmholtz Institute for Translational Oncology, a cutting-edge research laboratory in Mainz. He chairs its Scientific Management Board. The institute brings together immunologists, computational biologists, and clinicians to tackle diseases that have no effective treatments. Sahin also invested in pandemic preparedness infrastructure. He worked with governments worldwide, including Israel, to establish research collaborations and local vaccine production facilities. He funded programs to ensure future outbreaks could be met with rapid response. His foundation supports training for PhD students who work on projects spanning 4 years, giving them ownership of full research programs rather than fragments. Over 50 students have defended dissertations under his guidance. Sahin holds over 500 patents. He publishes in top scientific journals. He is recognized as one of the world's foremost experts in mRNA medicine. Yet he describes his success simply. Conducting long-term research creates opportunities, and patience is more valuable than money. Elon Musk, the world's richest person, turned his wealth toward one of humanity's most ambitious projects, merging human brains with computers. In 2016, after becoming a billionaire from PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX, Musk co-founded Neuralink with 8 scientists and engineers. The goal was to create brain-computer interfaces that could treat neurological diseases and eventually enhance human cognition. Musk funded the company with $100 million of his own money. He recruited top neuroscientists from leading universities. He set up laboratories in Fremont, California, and built a team of 90 employees by 2019. The challenge was immense. Existing brain interfaces were clunky and limited. Musk's team developed a sewing machine-like robot that could implant ultra-thin threads into the brain. Each thread is only 4 to 6 micrometers wide, thinner than human hair. These threads contain over 1,000 electrodes that can read neural activity with extraordinary precision. By 2024, Neuralink had implanted its device in humans for the first time. The wireless implant sits in the skull. It registers thoughts related to motion. An app translates neural signals to control computers, phones, and other devices entirely by thinking. The first patient, Noland Arbaugh, was paralyzed from a swimming accident. After receiving the implant, he regained the ability to play video games, create 3-dimensional designs, and operate his computer independently. He called it reconnecting with the world. By late 2025, 12 people had received Neuralink implants. They accumulated over 15,000 hours of usage. Patients reported being able to do tasks faster and more comfortably than with previous assistive technologies. Musk's wealth allowed Neuralink to take risks that traditional research labs could not afford. The company spent hundreds of millions developing custom surgical robots, testing thousands of electrode configurations, and iterating on battery and wireless technology. That patient capital compressed what might have taken decades into less than 10 years. Neuralink also developed blind sight, a system designed to restore vision to people whose optic nerves are damaged, but whose visual cortex remains intact. The technology received breakthrough status from the federal government, accelerating its path to approval. But Musk's approach attracted criticism. Animal rights groups raised concerns about monkeys that died during testing. Regulatory bodies questioned whether the company moved too fast. Some co-founders left over safety worries and rushed timelines. Despite controversies, Neuralink represents a clear example of billionaire funding enabling scientific progress. Musk's capital paid for engineering talent, custom manufacturing, and long-term trials that universities could not sustain. The technology remains experimental. It will take years to know if brain-computer interfaces can safely treat paralysis, blindness, or cognitive decline at scale. But Musk's willingness to spend his fortune on moonshot neuroscience has already advanced the field. Carl Hansen, a Canadian physicist who became a billionaire by discovering antibodies faster than anyone thought possible. Hansen earned his undergraduate degree in engineering physics and mathematics from the University of British Columbia. He completed his doctorate in applied physics and biotechnology at Caltech, studying under renowned scientist Stephen Kwolek. He trained as a postdoctoral fellow with biotech pioneer Leroy Hood at the Institute for Systems Biology. In 2006, Hansen joined the faculty at UBC as an associate professor of physics and astronomy. He worked at the Michael Smith Laboratories, building tools for biological research. His lab focused on fundamental discovery, understanding cancer, stem cells, and immune responses. Hansen developed microfluidic technologies that could isolate and analyze single cells with unprecedented precision. In 2012, Hansen and his team had a major breakthrough. They created a microfluidic fluorescence bead assay that could rapidly screen immune responses. The technology used data science, protein engineering, and machine learning to search for rare therapeutic antibodies hidden in billions of immune cells. Hansen saw an opportunity. The antibody drug industry relied on outdated methods. Everything was based on frameworks that predated artificial intelligence and modern microbiology. He believed his tools could revolutionize drug discovery. That year, he co-founded Abcelera Biologics with members of his research group. The company spun out of UBC with the goal of discovering antibodies and turning them into treatments. For years, Abcelera funded itself through research partnerships. It refined its platform quietly. Then, in March 2020, the COVID pandemic arrived. Abcelera obtained the first blood sample from a recovered American patient. Within 6 weeks, Hansen's team had screened all the cells and analyzed hundreds of antibodies. They identified one that worked best against the virus. In partnership with Eli Lilly, they developed bamlanivimab, the first monoclonal antibody therapy for COVID to reach clinical trials. The FDA granted emergency authorization that fall. The treatment was administered to over 700,000 patients. It saved lives when no other therapies existed. Abcelera's success proved that Hansen's antibody discovery platform worked at scale. In December 2020, the company went public on NASDAQ. It raised $555 million, the largest IPO for a Canadian biotech company. The stock tripled on the first day of trading. Hansen's stake was worth over $3.6 billion. He became a billionaire overnight. After gaining wealth, Hansen did not slow down. He used his resources to expand AbCellera into a global powerhouse. He hired hundreds of scientists and engineers. He built state-of-the-art laboratories and manufacturing facilities in Vancouver. He partnered with pharmaceutical giants including Pfizer, Novartis, and Merck to discover antibodies for diseases beyond COVID. Hansen invested in computational infrastructure. His team developed artificial intelligence systems that can predict which antibodies will succeed as drugs before they reach the clinic. That capability shortened timelines from years to months. He also funded academic collaborations, giving researchers access to AbCellera's platform for fundamental immunology studies. Hansen's wealth enabled him to pursue risky projects that public funding would never support. He explored antibodies for rare diseases, cancer immunotherapy, and chronic conditions that affect millions. His company now has multiple drug candidates in clinical trials. Some target autoimmune disorders. Others aim to treat infectious diseases that have no existing cures. What makes Hansen's story notable is the combination of scientific brilliance and entrepreneurial vision. He built the technology before he had money. Wealth gave him the resources to scale it rapidly and deploy it where it mattered most. He remains deeply involved in the science, reading papers, advising researchers, and pushing his team to tackle the hardest problems in drug discovery. Art Fry. You know the little square stuck to your desk that keeps your life from falling apart. He was the quiet engineer who needed a bookmark that would not fall out of his hymnal. The solution sounds almost silly. A colleague had invented a weak adhesive. He combined that with a sticky paper, and a simple idea became a product people could not stop using. At the company known as 3M, the invention moved through long meetings and reluctant managers. They did not rush to market. Instead, they tested, refined, and found the right paper and the right glue balance. That patience mattered. When the product finally launched, it did not explode into success overnight. It grew steadily into a staple product that transformed offices and schools. Here is what changed after the money started to flow. Revenue and scale let the company invest in better materials. It funded research into adhesives that would peel cleanly and stick repeatedly. Those improvements created spillover innovations for industries far beyond sticky notes. Packaging, medical tapes, and industrial adhesives benefited from the same research pipelines that grew out of a simple office product. There is also a human side. The inventor kept tinkering. Financial success did not turn curiosity off. It allowed small teams to experiment with new formulations, without the pressure to make immediate profits. That freedom led to more durable adhesives and to ideas about reusable materials that matter for sustainability today. Revenue flowed back into research. The company built labs to study how adhesives behave on skin and cloth. That led to an unexpected result. Engineers adapted the peel and stick idea into gentle medical tapes and wound dressings that do not tear fragile skin. New formulas let bandages stay put during surgery and then come off without pain. Engineers studied tack, cohesion, and how a film breaks under stress. Those seemingly boring tests mattered. The same lessons that kept a paper from ripping became the basis for dressings used in neonatal care. Tiny patients with delicate skin suddenly had better protection. Hospitals adopted repositionable labels and organizers that reduced errors during busy shifts. Small office innovation began saving lives in quiet ways. Stephanie Kwolek. You are holding a vest of protection, and you probably do not think about the person who made it possible. In the lab, she was testing polymers for lighter tires. The material she created behaved strangely. It was cloudy and could not be spun the usual way. Most chemists tossed such results aside. She did not. She kept tinkering with the polymer, changing solvents and temperatures. That patience produced a fiber that was incredibly strong, yet surprisingly light. The new polymer had a structure that aligned like microscopic ropes. When the company tested prototypes, the material proved 5 times stronger than steel by weight. It cut through the old trade off between weight and strength. The invention moved from bottles in a lab to bullet-resistant vests, and to ropes and to spacecraft components. The company that commercialized the fiber invested in scaling production. Factories learned to weave the fragile threads without breaking them. That manufacturing effort made the material affordable and useful in many fields. The work that followed was not a single flash of insight, but a long chain of tweaks and engineering choices. The same chemistry found its way into everyday tools. Engineers used the fiber in high-performance tires and in cut-resistant gloves for factory workers. They layered it into ropes for rescue teams and into composite panels for satellites. Those civilian uses saved lives and cut costs. They also created a new market that a single company could dominate. When production scaled, the firm invested in quality control and in training for technicians who could weave the fragile threads without breaking them. That know-how became part of the product's value. The company filed patents and negotiated licenses. Those contracts paid for more research and better factories. That loop of profit and reinvestment helped create entire supply chains for high-strength materials.